Hello, welcome back to Seconds Out. My name is Eamon Khan here with top trainer Dave Coldwell. We're in the aftermath. The dust is settling now on uh, Terence Crawford getting the victory over Errol Spence. Dave, I'll let you set the table for us first. Let me get your eye on the fight. What did you see?
I just thought it was a boxing masterclass. I mean, we use that word quite often, but I think in my time in boxing, thinking back to all the performances, I'm talking about the top level fights. Not against a guy that you're expected to win or anything like that. This was a genuine 50-50 going into the two best guys in the division. Um, and it was just so one-sided. It was just beautiful boxing from Terence Crawford and a genuine bona fide masterclass performance.
When we all talked about it in the build-up, look, there's a lot of people that were favoring Terence Crawford in the fight, but
Yeah,
this was built as a 50-50. Why didn't it play out as a 50-50 in the ring?
I think you saw a difference in levels of boxing IQ.
Hmm.
I think Terence Crawford's IQ is. I've said it before. I was fortunate enough to be a cutsman for Billy Nelson with Ricky Burns against Crawford, and I remember watching. When we knew Crawford was going into that fight, this young, good American prospect. He's tipped for big things. But when you're that close in that corner, when you're that focused on the fight, you see the little subtleties that these top fighters have in them, and obviously they've improved so much since then. Um, and watching him in that fight, his IQ was the people that aren't seeing what he's doing in that round one. He wasn't throwing a million punches, but I thought his jab was fantastic in round one. His positioning was fantastic. His feet, his hand positioning, his defense, and he was setting the tone for what was to come. And even whenever we all thought, I tipped Crawford, but we all thought, what if Spence gets on the inside? Because we've seen how Spencer's vicious to the body and so good on the inside. It breaks people up. But do you see how he nullified him on the inside? And he was the one that was having the little telling shots on the inside, and which progressed to being the bigger shots on the inside. Boxing IQ, mate. You can give away strength, you can give away natural power and things like that. But when you've got that boxing IQ and you can implement it and you have the discipline as well. Listen, one thing about Crawford, we've always enjoyed Crawford watching is because he does get tagged, and that was my worry for him going into this. I thought, is he, that side of him where he loves to have a fight and he gets a little bit reckless and he'll take a few shots. How good was his defense last night?
Hmm.
Because he was very disciplined. Even when he'd catch Spence with some bombs and rock him visibly, you could see an effect it had. He never pushed the metal to the pedal to the metal, so to speak, and went for it. He was still very calculated in what he was doing, very precise. He was very surgical. And he was, we've said he's a throwback fighter, but I do think last night that was a throwback performance.
For my eye, although I didn't watch it live, so for my delayed eye, um, it seemed like the first knockdown was really the beginning of the end for Errol Spence. So he did try to switch things up and get closer to Crawford, but he just couldn't get the success that he wanted. Was that the telltale sign for someone who'd backed Crawford to get the victory? Were you seeing the waterfall come down, as it were?
Yeah, kind of. But again, round one for me, I thought I was very not surprised, but yeah, probably surprised at how comfortable he was at taking away Spencer's jab in that first round. A lot of those jabs were just falling short. It was his hand position was catching him, and his own jab was so fast and relaxed coming out of his shoulder. And I thought that set the tone. And then obviously round two, you saw him then start. It was right at the end of round one. I think he landed that first left hand right as a bell went. And then round two, you saw him just pick up a bit slowly. But it was very smart in what he was doing. And yeah, round two, I just thought then before the knockdown as such, I just thought he's completely in control. And it's one of those where when they're in that position, when they're that good a fighter, you think as long as they don't get carried away and switch off mentally and leave a blatant gap, then you think that's the pattern of the fight. And he just turned that screw bit by bit gradually, and it was just unbelievable. It's right up there with my favorite performances for elite level boxing, that's something that was special, and because of the magnitude of the fight itself.
We had Raheem and Frank over there covering the fight for us, and in the post-fight, Raheem spoke to Antonio Tarver. He had some choice words for Derek James, who is an accomplished trainer in his own right, current trainer of the year, but he criticized a lack of game plan, a lack of plan B from Errol Spence. Is that a fair criticism, you feel, Dave?
But yeah, possibly. But what you got to look at as well. Again, this is what I felt that Crawford would win the fight, because I always said he's got more than one dimension. He's got multiple dimensions to his game. Whereas with Spence, all the way through his career, if you look at Spence, really, what you see is what you get. He's very, very good. That he uses that jab to get himself in range, and he just, he breaks you to pieces. His body work, his volume of punching, his shot selection on the inside is fantastic. But you know what he's going to do. And if you can take that away from him, use what he does against him, which what Crawford did, then what has he shown in the past, what he can, adaptability and how he can change up. So if that's a fighter's makeup, if that's all a fighter can do, then when that's not working, that's when it's very, very hard to try and change it up. And I think Spence couldn't get the distance and the range right because Crawford took away his jab, and the little subtle foot shifts that Crawford was doing whenever Spence was attacking, or even when Crawford had touched him with the first shot, a little shift, would then allow him to still be in range to catch him with a second and a third. He never really went wild with any punches. We've seen him in the past in some fights where Crawford, when he goes to work, he can be a little bit wild. He didn't have to be, because his feet were so good and his position was excellent.
It was very conclusive, the victory. There is a rematch clause on both sides. Would you want to see the rematch either at 147 or 154?
Well, I watched. I've just now. I've watched the post-fight press conference that they had. Spence was saying he wants it. He prefer it at 154, and Crawford said, "I'll do it 154." I've spoke about. Obviously, I remember there was rumors that Crawford missed the weight first. Just a couple of houses over. He's filled into the weight himself. I mean, people going about, obviously he wasn't as big as Spence, but he's filled into the weight. He's been in the weight quite a while, and he seems perfectly happy to go up to 154 now. So I think, if they do go ahead, listen, that's the night of the fight. We're saying, yeah, want to activate the rematch clause. When emotions settle down, you don't know. Maybe then they may think differently. But if they do the rematch, it will be at 154. I think, going on what they were saying in that press conference, post-fight press conference.
Who's that favour?
Well, I just think, again, I'll say it's, you don't have to be as strong as somebody in order to beat them when their asset, strength and their power. As long as you're defensively sound and you're capable. Crawford's proved that he's capable defensively to nullify what Spence does. And also, Crawford will be bigger as well. But it gives, for his own peace of mind, his own mentality going into the fight, and for the narrative to sell the fight, you then say, oh well, okay, maybe it was the weight. That gives Spence more confidence going into it, because otherwise, where is the confidence? There's nothing in that fight that he can take away to say, I can build on that. I had success there. I can build on that. There's nothing in there. So he has to take the weight and say, that's the reason why. But, again, in that post-fight press conference, all I was hearing was, there's no disrespect or anything like that, but all I was hearing out of the mouths of Spence and his coach, Derek James, was his timing was off. His timing was off. And that's why, they even said, is there anything that, were you surprised by Crawford's speed or his power? And it was like, no, it didn't surprise me. It's just my timing was off. Maybe, if you're just banking on it's just because your timing was off, I was about, your timing was off because of what Crawford was doing, And again, like I said, boxing IQ. I just think the difference in boxing IQ means that, jump up a weight division. Both men are going to jump up a weight division at this stage. Terence Crawford is what? I think he's 36 in a couple of months. So he's ready to move up in weight himself. Listen, he's coming towards the end of his own career. So let's not get that twisted. So the jump up in weight might suit him as well. So, I just think it's repeat. I just think Crawford's the better fighter. That's it.
A lot of discussion, obviously, about about pound for pound number one, especially with what Inoue did days previous. But has Crawford done something now to really cement himself and his status as number one?
I think so. I'm over the moon for Terence Crawford because I feel as though he has never been given the credit fully for what he's achieved in this sport. This is a guy that's won titles at lightweight. It was lightweight when he beat Ricky Burns. Gone up to light welterweight, cleaned up, become undisputed. Gone up to welterweight, and every fight at welterweight he stops. Remember, he was a smaller man. Oh, is he going to be big enough to go to well? He stopped every man that he's been in the ring with, and he's punctuated it with an undisputed fight with a performance like that against somebody who, in his last, listen, let's not forget, Spence against Ugas. Spence looked an absolute beast, an absolute beast. This is not a fighter where you think, oh well, he's no longer at the top table. So the performance that he's put in there on the back of what he's done in his career, I'm glad that now people are going to give him credit. He deserves it for what he's achieved in his career, and also, the things that he's had earlier on in his career with, not being pushed and things stagnating a little bit. It's nice to see, and he's carried himself the exact same all the way through. And so I think for me, in my own eyes, pound for pound is always personal choice and preference, and fans will always be back and forth on the pound for pound situation because it's kind of like a mythical title. But for me, he's pound for pound number one. Inoue, fantastic, and again a great performance. But if you're going to say Inoue is establishing itself as pound for pound because of beating Stephen Fulton. Fulton's a very, very good fighter, very, very good champion. But was he as established and as recognised as such a great fighter as what Errol Spence was? So if you're gonna put them both side by side, if this week was the deciding factor to see who was pound for pound number one there, then you got to say what Crawford's achieved there is just that fraction a little bit higher.
Just need a yes.
And also, I've got to say as well, like I said, it's a two-weight undisputed champion of the world. That is phenomenal. That is incredible. It's just think how big an achievement it is just to achieve that once, but to do it in two-weight division, that's unbelievable.
I just need a yes or no on this one, and I'll follow up after. You'd call, like everyone else, I believe, would call Errol Spence an elite fighter, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So what level is Terence Crawford on?
Is there a word of super elite?
That's what I'm saying.
Listen, elite fighters, they're the top of the tree. There's world champions, then there's elite fighters. And, then obviously when they're matched against each other, then you're talking about who's the best of the elite. I don't know what, I'd have to get a dictionary out to figure out what's the cream of the crop at elite. But whatever it is, Terence Crawford is that guy.
Now it's obviously a little bit, sooner maybe your decision will be swayed on this. Maybe it won't be, but I think that I'm just going to flip this discussion out. Who would you pick in a fantasy fight of Terence Crawford versus Floyd Mayweather?
Oh, do you know what? Josh Winnas just asked me. Josh has been on messages with me this morning. Literally 10 minutes ago, he just asked me the same question. It's the biggest. It's all credit to Crawford. And it shows you, what level he is and how he's achieved what he's achieved to be in that conversation where people can ask, how are he going against Floyd Mayweather? I'm probably to watch and for excitement and for how he's been. I'm probably more of a fan of Crawford, also because of how he carries himself than I was Mayweather. I love Mayweather as a fighter. Don't get me wrong, but fan wise, if I had to pick, if they were to fight each other, I would probably want Crawford to win. Although massive fan of Mayweather, I would probably want Crawford to win. But Mayweather's another level. I think he is another level. Don't get me wrong. I think Crawford, his IQ and his smarts, he would be competitive. You know, you're not talking about some of the fights that Mayweather, like Gatti or people like that. You know, I think it would be competitive. But Mayweather, if you're talking about peak for peak, you got to say there Mayweather. I think.
Would you say the same if I said Pacquiao?
That's a good one. That is a good one because Pacquiao left more holes, and even when Pacquiao was you know at the top of his game, and even when Pacquiao was letting his hands go, he leaves a lot of holes. So that's a good question. I've never been asked that one. Pacquiao against Crawford, that is a fight, and that is a fight. Maybe I think I'd give Crawford, because I think Crawford's IQ is higher. I just think that he's very good at adjustments, and he's reading you right from round one. What he's doing, what you're doing, he's reading you, and he makes the adjustments as he goes along quickly as well. You saw in that fight there, he was landing wide hooks, he was landing mid range, he was landing close up ropes where there looks like there's no leverage for him. You know, yeah, I think I possibly would say I would give Crawford a very big chance of beating Pacquiao.
Well, I'm sure Crawford will begin to or further increase his legacy. He's got much more left in the tank. Dave, really appreciate you joining me. I know you're knackered. I'm knackered too, so we'll leave it there. Thanks for speaking to Seconds Out. We'll catch up very soon.